Moments in life when unexpected events occur in which someone you know of or love is ripped from your arms, never to be seen again, if much worse, to be found but no longer alive. That applies to true crime cases and the Noah Presgrove case. 19-year-old at the time, September 4th, found dead at 5:43 a.m. on Highway 81 near to Terral, near and not far from a party house in which Noah attended a 4-day party over Labor Day weekend, and as well one of the friends known as Avery Combs' birthday party. With that all being in mind, just a general theme that in life, no matter if it's in an urban, busy, bustling area, dense, packed full of people, witnesses and cameras, or ranging from outbacks to rural places where it's more desolate, but there can still be eyes on the ground, whether that be witnesses, cameras and trail cameras, and yet at times people or things manage to slip through and it's not documented and it remains a mystery till this day. And that applies to the Noah Presgrove case more specifically. The fact that they were found naked on a highway. How did they even get there? The nature of the brutal injuries sustained has sparked an endless debate ranging from accident to murder, foul play, and others believing it could be somewhere in between, manslaughter. And while certain actions have been officially ruled out, such as hit and run, the inclusion of a vehicular-based death can still be involved, whether that to have occurred at the highway or closer, if not on site at the party house property. However, one much darker approach and theory which hasn't come around that often is the inclusion of murder, but by the hands of a stranger, maybe a party goer or just a passerby that came across Noah. But what would the motive be? Normally, when it comes to true crime cases, it can link back to someone that you once knew or were around, and that's why they targeted you specifically. But there's always that small chance random events can happen, wrong place, wrong time, getting on the wrong side of someone, meeting them when they're not in a good mood. Unexpected things can happen. And as for Noah Presgrove, due to the circumstances of him being drunk, alone supposedly, and walking away from the party house itself, maybe he did come across someone he wasn't supposed to. Maybe it was wrong place, wrong time, and Noah Presgrove wasn't anticipating what was to come. However, when it comes to what stranger, would it be a party goer? The possibilities of that could be somewhat high, considering in total over the course of days there was about 30 to 40 party goers. And whilst we've had a list of names revealed and some identified, there are still quite a few names which haven't reached the surface level, who we don't know of. So they are a mystery. Till this day, we don't know everyone that attended the party. So there could be someone down there that may know something about Noah and what happened to him. And granted, ever since with the wrongful death lawsuit filed, whilst the defendants' names can range from Johnny Trout Wilcoxon, Stevie Howard, Logan Jernigan, Carter Combs, Avery Joe Howard, Val Patrol, Jack Newton, Caleb Newton, it also includes unknown defendants' names known as John, Jane Doe. Could that mean that there are additional party goers caught up within the wrongful death lawsuit that may know of something, if not responsible for Noah's death? And could those named individuals be people we've never heard of before? Hence the possibilities of a stranger or strangers coming across Noah Presgrove and ending his life. In support of that idea, previously on Facebook, one of Noah Presgrove's aunts, known as Robin Smith, left a very interesting comment giving her thoughts on the matter and who could be responsible, as well as a follow-up by Brooke Bounds Carter, a longtime friend to Stevie Howard being the mother to some of the party girls that hosted the party. So with an insider knowledge and a closeness in understanding the motives, the innocence or beyond as for who was attending the party, there would be a level of knowledge to some extent. And with sharing that to Robin Smith, The response was eye-opening. Let me read it to you. You're right. I don't believe that this was a vicious murder. To think that any of Noah's friends would do that is unimaginable. What I do not appreciate is the lack of cooperation and the lying that has been going on. Regardless of what happened, it makes people seem suspicious, as if they know the whole story and are trying to cover it. Evidence shows that Noah was not alone when this happened, and yet no one will tell us what exactly happened. And Brooks' response, okay, so we definitely agree on it not being a murder. So if there is evidence that he wasn't alone, maybe there was another kid from the party, or maybe responsible. You see, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Whilst yes, the consideration of another party goer, not the friends, but a stranger, you branch off that, the possibilities are endless. Whilst here it was regarded as not a vicious murder, things have obviously changed since, because at another time Robin Smith believed it was cold-blooded murder, and ever since, more recently, the wrongful death lawsuit states the possibilities of murder, a beatdown, that Noah was physically attacked by said defendants, including a John Jane Doe's mystery people, which could link to indirectly what Brooke Bounce Carter is getting at. Whilst yes, they don't believe it to be a murder, you can combine different ideas and perspectives together, and in the end it does create a rather dark, mysterious outlook, because if it is true, there is still a killer on the loose, lurking around. Who will be next? Join me today as we do a map analysis, looking at the general area location, looking at the highway and the back roads to suggest the possibilities of a stranger being present at the time of Noah's death, which is unknown of, but at least the timing of when he walked away, 3:30, and the estimated time of death in the background, 4 in the morning. It gives a certain time frame window to take a look at, and as well the neighbouring towns and nearby locations in which they could have come from, originated, whether that be a party goer or just a passerby. And so here we are with the satellite imagery. Before I go any further, I'd just like to say, if you are interested in true crime cases like this and you want to learn more about it, or if you've missed out on any previous videos, don't worry, the full playlist is available, top right corner of the screen where the eye symbol is, along with some loose videos attached. Be sure to share your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section too in regard to this video, and let me know whether you agree or not that a stranger could have been responsible for Noah's death, accidental or murder based. You let me know below and I can respond back to those comments. If you do want to support the channel, in addition, there is a PayPal link down below in the comments pinned message with channel membership. Big shout out to those that have supported the channel in recent time, from Tim Daniel to BBC. With that all being said, let's get stuck into this. And welcome if you're currently here during the live premiere. I've incorporated certain events which have already been documented in some way and passed on from certain party goers, and then linking it with the highway situation and the mini-mark cameras in which claims were made that no traffic was seen passing on by through Terral, meaning would there be any traffic further on north if it doesn't pass through Terral, which is a straight highway going that way north, or coming down south, you'd have to pass through Terral to continue on, right? Not quite the case. You'll see that where it's colour-coded, highlighted with some of the road markings. More about that later. And as for the stranger aspect, those are the beacon points where a stranger could live, originate from, or was passing on by, just as a possibility. It's important to acknowledge whilst it's a rural area, there is still a form of civilization and humans present. So, first of all, a quick little recap here. A chain of events. Sunday, at some point, Sunday night, Noah Presgrove walked off, found by his friends. That was stated by Sarah Long, who wasn't even at the party, but heard about it some way, relayed it back on to a party girl that was there, known as Jasmine Milan, one of whom was to have found Noah and bring him back to the house. We never hear much about that Sunday event, as in Noah walking away. It was always regarded as just Monday. And then, from Caden Pressey's one of his interviews, public, made a reference to Jasmine Millan telling Caden a bit later on in the day that Noah supposedly walked off in between 2 to 3 in the morning, but then Jack Newton was the one to say Noah walked off at 3:30. So, is what Jasmine Millan said a secondary event in which Noah walked away? Is it a rough estimate linking on to what Jack stated specifically as 3:30? Either way, 2 or 3 times Noah walked off, but the final one he did not return back successfully. And the final one in which he headed east at 3:30, said by Jack, in which Logan Jernigan was supposedly the last to see Noah walking off, but not a single person or soul supposedly followed after Noah. And yet, Robin Smith is the one saying that there is evidence. At some point, somehow, there is evidence to show that Noah was not alone at the time of his death. So who was around him and how many? What did they ultimately witness? Did they see and hear Noah's final breath? Did they participate in that? And when Noah was alone, and compared to when he wasn't, at what point? What location exactly? Was Noah alone and dead on the highway? Was he not alone when walking away? Who followed after him? Did he make it so far and then a stranger, a passerby, decided to pull up? What you also got to take in consideration is Noah simply walking down a highway, getting hit by a vehicle. Would that justify all injuries? Maybe not. And in some ways, hit and run has already been ruled out. But a chain of events, a chain of unfortunate events, leading from one set of injuries to another is always on the table. One thing that was highlighted, I believe, by Jack Newton is at some point in the past, it was known that Noah Presgrove, when walking away, ended up hitching a ride back home, like hitchhiking. And as you know, those hitchhiking stories don't always go to plan, whether that be the hitchhiker who's the danger, or the passenger, the driver that's welcoming them into the vehicle, into the cab of the truck and driving on, supposedly going to where the hitchhiker wants, but ends up taking a wrong turn and going somewhere completely different, where it's very isolated and doing something unimaginable to that hitchhiker. Could that have happened to Noah Presgrove? You could find that somewhat hard to believe if it's the matter of Noah hitching a ride outside of the party house property, driving so far down north, that way, and then what, being kicked out, being killed on the spot? Is that a little bit too far and drastic? Well, at times, extreme events and unexplainable things can happen, so it's always possible. The chances may be low, but it's still a possibility for as long as this case remains open and the unknown factor. Beside that, we still need to refer to partygoers, strangers, inclusion of the buildings nearby if anyone was present in them or lurking about outside loitering, whilst down here is another possibility. It's the different direction. What we've got to take in mind is, whilst Logan may have been the one to see Noah heading east, how long was he away for until something gave, something changed? We could refer to 5:43 when the first official call was made to the dispatch in which they found Noah's body. So Noah's body on the highway naked at least by 5:43. Dialing that back to 3:30, that time frame window, as in a range of things could have happened, and whilst excluding Caden's timeline due to it being unstable and somewhat unreliable with the counter evidence ever since, it's quite a big time frame window of all types of things to occur. So whilst Noah may have walked away heading east at 3:30, it doesn't mean to say he carried on walking east. He could have stopped at any given point down the dirt road. He could have even crossed over into the field temporarily. He could have even walked up to one of these buildings nearby, whether anyone was present or not. Or maybe Noah turned back round and went west, lower down here, and something happened. See, at the end of the day, as long as Noah Presgrove remained on site of the party house property by his own will, then for him to end up at the highway would imply a possible form of foul play. And whilst there is still that possibilities of accident, sleeping in the back, the bed of a pickup truck, then people leaving unaware that Noah's in the back, driving off. Noah gets up, disorientated, woken, and then falls out the back or the side and is killed that way or partially, and then finished off shortly by another oncoming vehicle, adding two and two together to justify all those injuries in total. Whilst that is still a possibility, we're looking at the murder aspect today. And it's more likely that if Noah was to be murdered on site of the party house property, the elements of what type of stranger, a passerby, a local, just a general person walking on by, driving on by, is less likely. But a stranger party goer is higher, the chances of that. Meaning, for as long as Noah remained on site of the party house property, in between 3:30 to 5:43, anything could have happened. And granted, whilst maybe at 4 a.m. up to 4:30, some searches were done, as in by party goers going down the dirt road, going onto the highway, heading north, down to the first sandplank crossing, and then ending their search, or some of them ending their search around this point, even though Noah was to be found later further down that way. If partygoers at the time continued on downwards, would they have found Noah earlier? And if they found Noah's body earlier, would it have led to a different outcome in the case? Would it have greatly impacted the results, a difference in the autopsy report, or would it still be the same place as where we are right now? You let me know your thoughts in the comment section about that. So as a search was conducted round here, down the highway, there was an indication by partygoers to assume that Noah had walked on down or somehow ended up down the highway, which is somewhat true, but they just underestimated the distance. But likely, you probably wouldn't expect Noah to go that far, right? But what were they expecting to find anyway? As in finding Noah on the side of the highway alive? Were they expecting to find Noah alive at that time when they didn't hear from him, when he didn't return back? What type of panic or fear set in, if there was any? Because in some people's minds, when it wasn't successful or yielded results, some suggested, well, either he's in the field, laying about, and when it gets too warm, he'll come back. Oh, and it wasn't that. Oh, maybe he decided to hitch a ride back home because he's done it before in the past. Whilst yes, it's using reasoning ability to justify the possibilities of what's happened and to try and keep your own mind calm and at bay. There's always still that dark possibility, but not all humans are prepared for it. So it often comes unexpected when they hear the news of what has happened, the death of someone. So we're taking that into consideration and driving on down and searching about. From 4 a.m. onwards, was Noah Presgrove already down by the highway further on north, or could he have been elsewhere in between, moved about from place to place? And the only reason why I consider that and acknowledge it is because I've covered the Dylan Rounds case, in which Dylan's body was moved about here and there. Would the same have happened? Now, do we have any other locations, buildings of interest? I said the collection and array of buildings back there, whilst it looks somewhat abandoned, were they ever in use during the party? We've not seen any footage of that, but that could imply other possibilities. Because whilst Noah had walked away from the party, did he enter a secondary party? You got one party house. Was this the second party house? Noah heading east, the same direction up the road where these buildings are at. Not been any answers. So, if for some reason you had any outcast, misfits, unwelcomed, uninvited guest, and granted, was anyone uninvited when the invitation was open and public online, I believe on Instagram by Avery, announcing it public, anyone can come on down from the looks of it. So really, if anyone can come on down, that makes the situation so much worse. You could attract anyone to arrive with whatever they have, putting other people's lives in danger. And whilst there might have been some limitations and restrictions, just by posting it publicly online, you are asking for trouble. You are asking for high volumes of people to arrive. But yet, this was an odd exception. 30 to 40 partygoers turned up over the course of days, an accumulation, not all at once supposedly, and yet it's a public online post. You'd think more people would have shown up if it was such an open invite, attracting the bad eggs, the strangers, the unusual people and beyond. And whilst yes, what happened to Noah is dark, mysterious and unknown, does it further reinforce with the invitation of anyone could have come on down at any time, even the time of when Noah was walking away, and another party goer or someone that decided to feel invited themselves, coming south, coming up north. They didn't have to pass through the mini-mart then. And that's the thing, whilst Jack and Stevie Howard were very adamant and fixed on the statement of there was no traffic on the mini-mart cameras of Terral, which passed through the highway onwards north-south, meaning no traffic down the highway whatsoever. Was that at a given time, or is that from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m? Was it in between 3 a.m. to 6 a.m, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m? What exactly is the given time? Because whilst if it's open and it's meant all the way through of Monday in the morning, there are back roads in between which create that gap, which create that dissociation from being caught on camera to not, but still being present and traffic being down the highway. But if Tyler Hoodman driving his truck south, 5:43, first official caller, turning around in Terral, yet no mini-mart cameras picked him up despite being such a big vehicle, a semi-truck. How? Maybe because they turned around earlier. See, at the end of the day, it comes down to the timing of when they refer to the mini-mart cameras as for not picking up traffic. What, during the crucial time of 3:30 to 4 in the morning? 3:30 to 5 in the morning? I wonder, because it does make a big difference. Besides that, with the back roads included, a stranger could have been driving on down and they knew about the party and they decided to come. But being late to the party, is that fashionable? Maybe not. They could have heard about it last minute and decided to show up and thought, why not? Despite the timing. Because from what Alicia had said, Caden Presley supposedly turned up at the party Saturday night, almost past midnight, going into early Sunday morning, which is an unusual time. Well, Caden hadn't quite worded it that way. Alicia, the mother, had. So someone can show up to the party so late to the point where people could be going to sleep and you disturb them. It's quite possible that there was another interrupted appearance. But did they successfully integrate and introduce themselves to the party, the house? Did they even get to that point? See, someone could have turned off, driven down that dirt road, and at the time of driving on down, what if Noah Presgrove was walking on up and crossed paths with someone, and there was an exchange of words, an argument, and it escalated? But would the person showing up be sober or drunk? You'd hope to think sober, but from how the stories have come about in the case, some were already drunk when turning up to the party, meaning they were drunk driving, which isn't great. See, what I'm saying is, if you got one drunk person, and even maybe two, it can escalate. It can turn people into monsters, it can make people unstable and beyond. So, you think a simple disagreement or an argument, it can escalate so much more when there is alcohol presence. So if that applies to just one of the two people, or both, if not more, whether it was a group of strangers, a couple, or just one, is that how it links to the wrongful death lawsuit as a John Jane Doe's and one or two more defendants being responsible for beating Noah down? That whilst the defendants' names which we're familiar with are involved or know something, or just linked back to the responsibility, the caregiving and the safety of Noah and ensuring his safety at the party house and the alcohol distribution, etc. Whilst they are linked to that, the claim of one or two defendants being responsible for a beatdown does not specify exactly whom of the defendants. So the names which we're familiar with could be innocent in terms of Noah's death, could be innocent to some extent, but it's been claimed that they're responsible, at least in the claims, that they could have done more to protect Noah with the alcohol distribution in terms of Noah walking away, maybe. But in terms of the beatdown, that can apply to other defendants, names which have not been mentioned till this day. Names of defendants that could have been strangers to all we know. And those strangers may have been like that to Noah Presgrove, if not all of the partygoers there. And when you've got strangers, unexpected things can happen, good and bad. While strangers can meet and things can blossom unexpectedly, from strength to strength, getting closer and closer. Sometimes the closeness isn't always positive, and it's masked and revealed later with a darkness and a sharp bite. Like if Noah Presgrove came face to face with a party goer, a late self-invited individual that decided to show up drunk or not, and coming across Noah who was drunk, and with Noah being a bit of a prankster and having a certain attitude and maybe flirtatious behaviour, depending on if the stranger had a girlfriend or a group of girls with them, who knows, one thing could have led to another. There may have been a misunderstanding, and through misunderstandings, like with online, there can be drama and it can escalate both in real life or just online. It can get petty, it can start off petty, and it can escalate and get worse. If you include alcohol, much worse. If you include it in real life when it's face to face, it could be more intense depending. So whilst Noah was walking away, he may not have got down to the highway itself, but he still ended up there. So we do need to acknowledge that and try and figure out why Noah would end up from one place to another. A level of transportation needed, but was it by Noah's own will and choice? Or was it out of his control, or past the point of being alive, death, and just being moved on like roadkill? So, whilst we acknowledge strangers at the party, I still want to refer to strangers in general and the directions. A stranger from Terral. You never know. See the possibilities linked back just as discussion points only, that with the Dylan Rounds case, Montello, Nevada, you had one of Dylan Rounds' best friends known as Kurt Wadsworth. Dylan Rounds was a 19-year-old white farming male. Kurt Wadsworth, the best friend, was a 62-year-old male who was into the same gender. Yes. Was Dylan Rounds groomed? Was Dylan Rounds done in some ways? People suggested that back and forth. But nevertheless, the small, tight-knit community of Montello, Nevada, some suggested, did they keep a tight lip? Did some know what was going on but kept quiet? Was there a form of misdirection in between? All kinds of possibilities. Does it ever link back to the same themes but apply to the Noah Presgrove case as the town of Terral, that anyone nearby here, tight-knit, that may have known or were present at the party that came from here, know of something as a stranger or on behalf of a stranger? I don't think we give Terral a close enough focus. The only focus which we've given it is the whole mini-mart situation, right? This place here, in which there are cameras which point towards the highway, so far down there, so far up that way, which is south, but it will not show cameras, it will not reach beyond and further down that way. So there could be vehicles further north which took back roads, dirt roads off, whether that be a normal vehicle, an off-road vehicle, or a bit of a bigger one, taking back roads to get elsewhere, shortcuts, and even back roads to get to the back areas of the town of Terral, undetected, away from these type of cameras. So just because these don't pick up traffic here, there is still that possibility that there was traffic further down at a given time. But in terms of this town, in terms of the crime rate, what's it really like? Because, you know, the party house is regarded to near to Terral. This situation and the location of Noah's body to the party house to here, the mileage in total, 2-3 miles from point to point. This is a lot closer than the Dylan Rounds case. Yet the Dylan Rounds case heavily focused on the town of Montello, Nevada. The problem was, Montello, Nevada was roughly 27.44 miles from Lucin, Utah, the actual farm where Dylan Rounds was working at, or more so the Grangeshed property. 20 plus miles from border to border, state to state. Quite a distance, yet relevant in the case. And how relevant? To the point where days before leading up to Dylan's death, Dylan being present and crossing on over into Montello, Nevada, communicating with the people nearby, picking up the odd person as well. All kinds of depth. You'd need to check my channel out for that. With a level of activity and presence in the town, even though there's a great distance, did Noah Presgrove ever attend the town of Terral to pass on through, to visit anyone, to go to the shop, the mini mart, get any alcohol, whilst maybe Caden Pressey did with some of the girls? Did Noah Presgrove ever? You can let me know your thoughts down below. Because what I'm trying to say is, if there was a stranger, and if by some chance that they originated or lived in this town, whether they be a party goer, self-invited, or if it be just a passerby that may have hitchhiked, given Noah a ride, as it's been suggested, and it went wrong. And if they live here or lived here at some point, did they come across Noah prior to the death? Was Noah anywhere near this town a day before, earlier, whenever? Because the other mention which has been brought up is the likes of Carter Combs, designated driver, Mikey Lair, possibly Brylan Sweat from what's been going about online. That Mikey Lair, Sunday night onwards, at some point was given a ride by Carter down to the town of Terral to meet up or to hang out with a girl, whether it be a girlfriend or just a friend at the start, hanging out for a little bit and then going back to the party house after. With that being in mind, I don't know if any of that would justify why Caden's footage at 10:50 inside the house does not show Mikey Lair present, because maybe at 10:50 p.m. Mikey was in Terral, but then again Carter Combs was at the house. Depends, Carter going back and forth, it's worth considering. But if someone like Mikey Lair can be present in Terral, was anyone else, and was Noah Presgrove at any given time? Because if Noah somehow crossed paths with a person or group and rubbed the wrong way, or there was any tension, maybe in the moment nothing happened, but given a day or two, depending, if Noah unfortunately crossed paths with that individual again, whether they decide to show up at the party as a guest, whether they just simply driving on down and came across Noah and thought, you know what, we need to teach him a lesson or two. It's always worth acknowledging as a possibility. The mystery, what I would like to know is, what happened to those ducks? Here we got the ducks. Quack, quack. Hopefully the ducks are okay. Oh no, who ate all the ducks? Oh my God, they're no longer there. Oh, but in all seriousness, with Noah Presgrove, does anyone know if he was in the town of Terral at any given point? And if not, is it still possible that a stranger from this area could have come on down to the party? See, out of all the named individuals what we've come across, maybe the patterns and trends are further north, Comanche, Duncan, where people originate from, come on down from, or Texas, Bowie, Texas, San Jose boys. But what about Terral? Was there any party goers from the town here that went to the party house at any given time? More importantly, did any of them show up Sunday night going into Monday morning? It's worth taking in mind, 30 to 40 partygoers. We don't know of all of the names, and not everything has been truly confirmed. It's a shame no formal list was given, but by now the main focus seems to be on just the defendants, which we've already heard of, but the John Jane Does are still intriguing to me. You can let me know what you think about that, of course. But I just wanted to show you the general area of what it looks like, because we've not really spent much time here. Because you can focus in at the party house only so much. and the highway too. You have to look beyond at times. Like Warwicker Lake has had a few links to going there, or supposedly going there, as in the fishing trip, Jack, Caleb, and Jack's grandfather. The boating accident in the past of 2020. But then Warwicker itself, the town in which Noah and partygoers attended, that could be another location where a stranger was at, or came on through, originated from, that came on down to the party as an uninvited or unexpected party guest, whatever you want to call it, and did something to Noah. It doesn't just have to be Terral, it can be elsewhere. So we'll look at that in just a second. I just want to finish off this area here. So in terms of the town, it's a little bit similar to what I've seen in Montello, Nevada. Bigger though, probably bigger population, and a few more developed buildings as well, but still rural, a little desolate. I'm familiar with these horses, came across them in the past in an old video of mine. Did a few horse sounds, not everybody was impressed by it, but times have changed. So, I think that's enough for here. If there are any other interesting stories or mysteries from Terral, feel free to drop a comment down below. I believe somewhere in this area, or somewhere down the highway, there was a viewer on my channel that made a mention about either skinwalkers or crime rates, missing children, missing young adults, disappearing, many of them not to be seen ever again. Maybe supposedly body parts being found as well. I don't know what that was all about, but a viewer did bring that up, and they said that they fear going out at night time in the area, just in case, because it's dangerous. I don't know if anyone else remembers that. You let me know. So back on a form of highway, the US 81. We've done a nice full stretch, and I'm not even from the area, and yet I've managed to coordinate ourselves back on track. So that's a good heads up strawberry, isn't it? So, strawberry, where do you want to go? Where do you want to head? You let me know. Anyway, moving up this way, and we will skip ahead in just a second because it's quite a long stretch. What you will see is some back roads or side roads like this one, which turns off, which is before you hit the mini-mart, which is down there. The mini-mart cameras would not be able to detect traffic at this point. Traffic coming down south, more so, or traffic going up north, coming out of this road here, will remain undetected from cameras down there. So you could say, well, there's no traffic because it doesn't show. The vehicles could have passed on through, cut down this road, right? Or the one further up. And you will see that when we zoom out. Because this is what I wanted to do. Highlighted in red are the possible routes in which a stranger, an unknown partygoer, could have taken at some point to come on down the highway, post-death of Noah, or in the process of it, unknown to them if it was unexpected and not planned. The first one what I've highlighted is just there. Mini-mart down that way, as you see, highlighted with the red symbol, no traffic. Moving up this way, then you've got another turn, which is there. Goes the same direction, but cuts in sooner if you're coming on down. Would that apply to Tyler Hoodman? Likely not. Some said Tyler Hoodman turned around at the casino area or the car park, which is somewhere down here. I believe this one, which is big enough to turn around. Well, could be, depending on the parking spaces. However, if Tyler Hoodman turned around somewhere further down here, he would have to go past the mini-mart camera. So why is the mini-mart cameras being described as no traffic being caught on camera? Was Tyler Hoodman in an invisible cape? What's going on there? Anyway, just so you can see what it looks like. On ground level, the turnaround, or a turn off, you could call it. That's what it looks like. Goes into the town of Terral, round the back area. Decent road, as you can see. There's a bit of a dead end point there of a road on the other side of that tree, and that's north. So anyone could have passed on through or cut on in from here if they were coming or going from the party or near to the area. Beside that, some of the other more familiar areas which you see further on up I've also made a reference to this particular building on the sideline, whether it be of much use or not. People have said, well, when it came to Paul Poucher and hearing a dog bark, could it have been a neighbour's dog and not one's from the party house? If it was a neighbour's dog, would you be able to hear it from this distance? Maybe if it's quiet enough and there's a bit of a breeze, noise can travel, but it depends how loud it sounded to Paul. Did Paul hear a dog barking which made it sound it was very close, or did it sound distant? We don't know, because unfortunately Paul doesn't always explain himself, or hadn't at the time. But this particular building here, referred to it a few times, not really seen many answers. If anyone has, you can leave a comment down below. Is this a property? Is this regarded as a place of living? There is a mailbox, I believe, there. There is a building back there. Whether that be somewhere someone can live in, temporary or long term. Around the back, I think there might have been a car parked up under that shelter. Another vehicle pickup parked there, and some kind of barn shed complex. Maybe it's just for farming only, or maybe it's for living in. I'm not too sure, personally, but it seems somewhat kitted out. If anyone was living there, do they have any cameras alongside the highway to show traffic coming on down, besides using the mini-mart? The closer another building area is to the party house, the more use it could be. So, if anyone knows of witnesses or people living here at the time, did they know or hear of anything? Did they hear of any sounds, anything unusual? Did any cameras pick up traffic passing by their house at the time or not? Was anyone present at the time? That's the other question. So I thought I'd just bring that back up. As for witnesses, unlikely that anyone that may have been living there probably came down to the party house, but just as a witness aspect, you've got this turnaround point here, which is before the party house. Down there, that dirt road, which goes on rather far, but it does end up connecting to the dirt road, I believe, further down where the sandplank crossing is, this one. But it's a really long way to go to reach back here, this point. It's a long distance around, but could have been used as an alternative route. Pulling out of here, would they have headed down that way? Probably not. They could have turned around and headed this way towards the party. Depends where they're coming from. Depends where they live. How far away? How far away is someone willing to go to a party like this? Well, if you've got certain friends that live 44.4 miles away, but they're willing to cover that distance to come on down here, someone else could as well, if there's a strong enough reason. When you're a stranger, unknown to them and those that are attending, you may feel a bit unsure about whether you should go or not, whether it's worth it or not. See, if you're familiar with friends, a loved one, a partner, you might be more willing to go above and beyond whether you're comfortable or not, because it's worth it. Someone is worth it. Someone you're going to see, be familiar with, and have a good time. There's greater encouragement, a boost, a purpose to follow through with something. When that loved one, when that partner, when that friend is taken away or just not present, there might be a magnetizing effect in which when they pull, detract, you do too. And then you don't feel like going. But if a stranger was to come to this place, unknown to people, maybe the presence of alcohol, the possibilities of girls being present and someone wanting to interact in that sense, maybe enough encouragement to get someone to come on down, even if the distance is great, because their needs and wants are greater. Maybe. It's just a psychology behind it, right? The reason why I've got this road bit highlighted in blue, where it links to a stranger coming on down, a partygoer leaving, or Noah Presgrove himself. See, this is the thing. It could either be a partygoer stranger showing up to the party late, then coming across Noah down the dirt road, confrontation, escalation. Or a stranger could already be at the party and lurking, loitering around outside and crossing paths with Noah as Noah's trying to leave or walk away to cool down. Normally Noah would walk away to cool down in silence by himself. If he wasn't able to achieve that because there was other people hanging about, could have caused frustration, it could have caused some kind of issue. Noah, it's been said, would normally walk away from a situation so it doesn't get any worse, so it doesn't bring the mood down. If he gets frustrated or annoyed, If Noah's already feeling kind of like that, and he's getting away, and then he's denied of that as well, on top of denying a bed, on top of denying a ride back home, denied a place of peace or quiet, that could expand and more frustration. And with a stranger, any disagreements, oh, why do you have to be here? Leave me alone. Why are you looking at me? Anything like that, any type of dialogue which could be interpreted as disrespectful or an act, a form of resistance in the moment and paired with alcohol, it can escalate. Once again, pettiness can lead to death. That does exist in this world. One message saying hi can end up leading to marriage. Unexpected big twists and turns can occur in life in general. One simple action, one little act can be so meaningful. It has shockwaves effects down the line, or even in the moment. All it takes is one bullet to change history. All it takes is 1 second to turn the course of things ahead. So for Noah Presgrove walking away at 3:30, any type of confrontation, wrong place, wrong time, wrong individual, alcohol being mixed, it can be a recipe for disaster. Depends how you look at it yourself, of course. I'm trying to cover all bases here, but as I did say, we need to move on further. Another turnaround point here, which is the sand plank crossing, which is the route Caden took down there to end up here. But these turnaround points and back roads could have been where a stranger, the killer, could have gone when leaving or arriving, and taking consideration where the body was to be dumped at. Instead of driving down the highway, taking one of the back roads off to get away from it all. So it's not deemed or seen as, well, that's the last person or the first person to drive on down or to pass by somebody else at that given time. Did they know something? If they drove past that area at a given time but did not report on anything, did they see anything earlier? To avoid those questions, less answers. Take a turn off as soon as you can if you have just disposed of a body. But why would a stranger care so much to move a body on just to leave it out in the open? Why would they do that? It sounds like a selfless act. It makes more sense on the basis that it was a friend to the partygoers, but maybe a stranger to Noah in some way. Because the only reason why you would move a body on, if Noah was killed somehow on this party house property, you may move the body on to protect yourself, of course, so it doesn't link back to you. But if Noah was last seen at the party house, it would still link back to that location, and it should still link back to questions which it didn't yield. So that may have been convenient and lucky there. But it would make more sense for a party goer, a party host, someone which has ties to the property, ties to responsibility of the land, or ties to friends that do own this place or live here, to move the body on, as in moving the responsibility on. Yes, it can still link back to the party house property, but by moving the body on elsewhere, it creates a bit of open space to breathe, get your story straight, change the narrative, whatever it may be. Not to bury the body, that makes it even more suspicious. Leaving the body out in the open, unusual and more mysterious, but unfortunate events can explain it with a blind eye without looking at the autopsy. A body straight up buried in the ground definitely shows a form or a higher chance of murder, but a guaranteed chance of foul play and desecration, thus leading to a missing person case and the party house property being ground zero and investigated further. That is why people would be more likely, if they're related to the property or in connection with friends protecting one another, to move the body on, because they don't want it to trace back to here. Move it on. Create some space and distance. Don't move the body too far away, because it might be too questionable as to how Noah ended up that far away. But then again, it depends what's going through the mind of individuals. So when it links back to a stranger, Would a stranger care so much to murder or somehow kill Noah Presgrove and then think, well, I need to move the body on because I don't want the house, the property being investigated, even though I don't live here, I don't have any ties, I might not know of anyone, I don't want the other partygoers getting in trouble. Why would a stranger care to that extent if they don't know the people that live there or host a party? They likely wouldn't care. They've done what they've done for whatever reason. They need to get out, and that is it. They don't need to do anything else. In fact, leaving the body behind, providing they weren't seen by anyone, leaving the body behind on site creates a good, strong distraction to focus in and pin the blame, possibly, false blame, onto the people that lived there or were attending the party who were known and accounted for. So yes, you could say maybe a stranger wouldn't move the body on. So how did the body end up down at the highway then? But there's still that possibility of a stranger to Noah Presgrove, but familiar to Avery Joe Combs, Avery Joe Howard, as a friend, an older friend, right? Not everybody at the party would have known Noah Presgrove, but they may have known at least someone from that party. It's worth taking that into consideration. For and against arguments. Now, with these turnaround points, these back roads, which you've already mentioned, and beyond past Noah's body, we need to head on down to the next town, the next place, location, which I believe is Ryan. Now, is there anyone from Ryan, Oklahoma, that attended the party? Bless me, Jesus. Speaking of Jesus, we've got the Baptist church, which is close enough. But is there anyone from Ryan that may have attended the party as a stranger to Noah, at least? And were they responsible? Did they know of anything? Are they one of the John Jane Doe defendants we have taken into consideration? Did any of the partygoers from the party, including Noah, attend Ryan? They would have passed on by, at least, but did they park up? Was any alcohol bought from round here? That's if any stores exist. Oh, okay. So it appears that you can go back in time, and that's on Google Earth, which is extremely interesting because normally you could only do it on Google Maps. I'll have to take that into consideration next time. But then again, maybe it only applies to certain spots. Perfect timing. Just so happens, not for pizza though, we do have a gas station, a rather small one, which probably has cameras. And we don't have any of those cameras, which I think could well be at the top up there, unless that's on the other side of the building, on an overhead power line. Nevertheless, telegraph pole. Up and down, south, that way. North, that way. And I think there's another gas station over there as well. Wow. So, with that being in mind, cameras should and would have shown Noah and people driving on down this way and cutting on through at given times. Whereas it's a distance away, it would show at least traffic flow from up this way. Instead of relying on the town of Terral and the mini-mart cameras, why not rely on Ryan? So you got from one end of the point north to down south. If one set of cameras don't show anything or yield results, did Ryan? Because past Ryan, heading down south, what's the next place you're going to come across? Noah's body, then on to past Party House, then on to the town of Terral, and then the casino. But before all of that, you do have back roads, dirt roads, country roads, which branch off more so on the left-hand side. So you could pass on down Ryan, but then you could turn off. Then you could turn back onto the highway a bit further down. So there's different routes that you can take. But as for the cameras and the footage, maybe there wasn't a need or a reason to consider a location like this. What I will say is, though, anyone buying alcohol, such as Jack Newton, that lives where he lives, but going in the opposite direction, instead of the party, he goes to Marlow, Oklahoma, to Napoli's convenience store to get alcohol underage, and is allowed to do that and then take it down to the party house to provide to Noah, supposedly. Why didn't Jack Newton just drive on down, go to the closest town store possible to the party house, Terral, or before that, Ryan, and get alcohol from there? Is it because there was already an understanding that if you used to go to any other store, they would ask for identification, so it just wouldn't be successful? That Marlow can turn the other blind eye, or they just don't ask in the first place, so you can kind of get away with it if you used to get alcohol? What's your outlook on that? Why'd Jack go in the opposite direction to get some alcohol when he could possibly get it closer to the party house property? Not an absolute guarantee, but it's possible. ATM. That where you draw money out? I believe so. Was any money transactions made with Noah Presgrove and his card post-death or before death? What was the last transaction? What was the last thing that Noah Presgrove bought with his wallet, his card? Considering that it's missing till this day, has it ever been used since? Not really heard much mentioned about that. Any clarity behind it? You'd expect probably not to be used because it could be traced and tracked, and it would really highlight a level of suspicion. If the person, the owner, is dead, but the card is in use, clearly something is wrong and off. But was there any loose change, any loose money, notes, dollar notes that were in Noah's wallet at the time when coming on down to the party, second time round? Was there opportunistic behaviour of taking money from Noah's wallet post-death or before? It's worth taking into consideration. Dylan Round's case, same exact situation. Dylan Round's 19-year-old farmer, his wallet was never to be found. What a pattern that is, right? Same age, same gender, same skin colour, same type of rural area in a way, and same items going missing, and a true crime case it being labelled as. Very. Have a quick look down this way as well. A little bit too far. Konoko, however you pronounce that. Sticks Superstore. What type of sticks do you sell? Anyway, this is just so you can see the area and likely cameras present, which I believe actually hidden under there, sneaky. But them also pointing downwards at the petrol pumps, gas pumps, whatever you want to call it. But then again, the radius and what it could show down the highway so far and back up that way too. That could have shown the flow of traffic at a given time, even though it's quite further away. It's still on the way down or away from where Noah's body was to be found. If anyone wants to take a route trip down this way or leaving, it's always worth considering. But was any locals from this area aware of the party, whether they attended it or not? Anyone living in this area, to some extent, to be honest, most of these buildings may be businesses, stores, other normal houses. There might be some, like an actual neighbourhood. I could be wrong, of course. Wow. That's interesting. What does that say? Cowboys? Okay. Okay. Any crime rates? See, this is the thing. The party in which Noah attended and what happened there. Within the space of the last, 5 years, has there been any other parties that had taken place nearby or a bit further afar in which it resulted in the death of someone and maybe alcohol was present too? It's an interesting building there. It's about looking for patterns and trends. Was it an abnormal event which happened to Noah? If it's happened more than once, would it be by the hands of the same people? And would there be higher chances of a murder case? It does make you think. So, with the presence of a neighbourhood, even if it is somewhat limited, anyone from round here aware of the party? The other thing is, there are somewhat locals that have reached out to me in some way and mentioned about how they've never heard about the case until I decided to cover it. And considering that I am not even from the US, I am from the UK, but people that are locals didn't hear about the case, that really does speak volume. Just depends on how, I guess, the case is reported, the story's told, and the reach of it, and the access to it, right? Maybe you got internet or not, whether there's enough posters about or not. So, I think that's enough exploration here, pretty much. Of course, whilst we have explored these areas, if anything does spark interest or intrigue, there's an observation to be made of these spots. You can always provide a timestamp down below. You can let me know further what you think or believe. The reason why Waurika, as far away as it is, would hold more of an interest to me is the fact that Noah Presgrove had been described to be physically present in Waurika at one of the gas stations getting breakfast with other partygoers, which involved Noah himself, Jack Newton, Caden Pressey, Logan, Carter, Avery, Brylan Sweat, Isaac Rojas, Jasmine Milan, Stephanie Milan, unknown of, at least 9 long-time friends. Even though Caden Pressey had said at one point, yeah, I met these girls and people in the past as friends in car parks. And then later in a Parks in True Crime follow-up private video said, I've never met these girls before, I've never been to the house before. Very weird. But beside that, Caden Pressey's original storytelling of what happened was Sunday morning breakfast time, they all headed out to Waurika. Then after breakfast, they all went back home to the party house. Caden and the girls were dropped off. Noah and the rest of the guys went back out to town, as in maybe Waurika again. It wasn't made clear, but back out to town makes it sound like you're going back to the location where you were, which would imply Waurika. And it also mentioned about Caleb Newton tagging along, Jack's father. I believe that's what Caden said. And, you know, there might be the odd person in the chat that say, that never happened, you got it wrong, Warlike Raph. And I'm like, well, just take a step back. Look yourself. We've seen that before already. Ugh. Anyway. So the breakfast that took place at the gas station in Waurika, is it really a big deal? Well, did anything go wrong at the time? Did anything escalate? Was there any tension? Whether that be when Caden was there or when Caden had been dropped back at the house and the guys went back out to town, if this was to be it. Was there any locals, people that live in Waurika or nearby, that knew of the party or attended the party as a stranger or a familiar face? That's the other question. And what I'm getting at is similar to what I suggested with the town of Terral, which may be less likely because we've not really heard any stories yet of Noah being present physically. At least with Waurika, Noah was. Is there a possibility that Noah Presgrove came across someone in Waurika at the gas station or nearby? There was a disagreement. There was a level of tension. But if anything quite like that happened, wouldn't the local or the passerby in the area, how would they know of where Noah was to go next or that a party was to take place? Unless it was a coincidence as in timing. Oh, look, we meet again. What a coincidence. Was anyone interested in going to the party that were from Waurika? And at what time could they have shown up? Did they have a run-in with Noah Presgrove earlier? It's not always about Noah being the troublemaker or starting it all off, but it's just about maybe a disagreement, a misunderstanding, something slightly off. Or it'll be by Noah, the other person, or by Noah's friends, depending. If arguments and fights could have come about at the party house with familiar faces and names, the chances of an argument between two strangers who don't know one another, who don't have the same tolerance levels, that don't have the same sense of humour or see things eye to eye, higher chances of misunderstanding, and misunderstandings can lead to trouble. And trouble can get physical, or it can start verbal and then get physical. Whilst I might not be in the exact area of the gas station, I'm just showing you the neighbourhood and the surrounding area whilst I'm narrating over it, okay? Any stories from around here? A bit more developed, bigger buildings, better houses from the looks of it visually. How long did Noah and the guys spend out at Waurika? Whether that be the breakfast time or beyond when they went back out to town, how long did they spend out there for and what did they get up to different to what they did for breakfast? Caden Pressey was dropped off with the girls. Was that by choice or was that because the guys wanted Caden to be dropped off? It implies that maybe the activities which followed onwards, maybe Caden wasn't capable of or couldn't do, so decided to rest and relax back at the party house with the girls. And maybe some of the activities that the girls wanted to do didn't align with what the guys wanted to do onwards, with the possible involvement of Caleb Newton. So what did the guys, including Noah, actually do? No one talks about it. Oh, because it's on a day before Noah's death. Oh, because it's away from the party house and where Noah was to be found on the highway. Does it matter? It is a strong enough focus on the casino with the whole Kathy Bingham claim and reaching out to someone that was a cleaner that saw partygoers later at a different point from the party confirmed, and appearing to have a hat that looked like Noah's and was disposing of it on top of a bin. There was a deep enough focus there. There's been a bit of a focus down in Terral, but the articles and news coverage does always refer to Terral, the town, as in a party that took place nearby. So there's references made there. So why not make references to a place which Noah and partygoers physically attended at some point, just like the supposed Red River, where they went down to play in the water over the course of days, multiple times. It's worth considering these and sourcing out these further spots and locations just in case something happened further afar and then it was brought back like a spirit to the party house on the same day or a day later, direct or indirect, and Noah came face to face with it, and someone decided to follow up on that and do something to Noah, right? It's about bridging that gap that people may not think it's murder because they don't think that partygoers and friends are capable of doing that to Noah Presgrove. But what if it's a stranger? A stranger in which the general public can't relate to, can't emotionally connect with, won't emotionally defend either, and there's no biased effect. You take out all the biased influences, the emotional aspect, the connections, and you're dealing with a stranger who you don't know, you know nothing about. You might be more open to the possibilities of them being responsible. If you know of the partygoers to some extent, and you know what they can be like in a positive way, yes, you would find it more unlikely for them to be responsible. Could they still know of something though and be hiding? Well, that's what Robin Smith suggested at some point. Opinions and outlooks can change because whilst Robin Smith had mentioned that I don't believe it to be murder, but then wrongful death lawsuits suggest implying murder, a beatdown, and a conspiracy behind it too. So, hanging out in the area, Noah Presgrove as well. Did they come across anyone, any partygoers, any future partygoers, any strangers, and it backfired or went wrong? Whilst the distance is great, considering there's a beacon point, the party, and it's put on the map publicly, it could have got the attention of someone from there to give it a try and unexpectedly come across Noah in the process, right? So, what are the chances though? I would say if Noah was to be killed on site at the property to then be moved onto the highway, it implies foul play and it does imply an aspect of murder, yes. But if it's a stranger to Noah, they would have to be familiar with the party host, or one of them at least, in order to maybe do them a favour and move the body on. Because if it's a stranger completely, why would they care and be considerate of anyone about? As long as the stranger has cleaned up after themselves, they wouldn't need to take the burden of moving the body further north. There would be no reason to do so. You only move the body further north or move it away, yes, maybe to stage it as something else to protect yourself, but also to protect the property, protect the integrity of it, protect yourself from being questioned further. As in, you know, did anything happen on this property? Considering that the police came on down, considering that Caden Pressey was also moving about on site of the property when cleaning up the beer cans, didn't mention anything about blood or anything unusual, neither did police, even if they were just there to interview. Would that instantly mean then that Noah wasn't killed on site of the property? Depends if it was cleaned up or not. It depends where it actually took place, right? Now, if Noah was already down the highway then, what's the deal there? Well, in terms of the aspects of the highway, I think at this moment the accident of the back of the vehicle. See, another way of looking at it, you can cross over the aspect of a familiar face or some kind of familiar face and with a stranger finishing off Noah unknowingly to them in some way. A hybrid to explain how Noah can sustain the total injuries in general and how Noah can end up from one place to another and not by his own choice but still being alive. And that can imply when Noah had left at 3:30, somewhere down here, down the dirt road east, there was a pickup truck, got into the back of it, rested, slept, overslept, passed out, whatever you want to call it.
And then people were leaving from the party house, in which there was a comment once on Facebook by Stevie Howard, even though I can't find it anymore and it's disappeared ever since. Stevie Howard did say the cameras on the property site weren't working. But then in another comment mentioned about how the properties the cameras on the property did work and show Texas boys leaving after Noah Presgrove left, implying that the cameras must have documented Noah walking away to know the time of that, to then when Texas boys had left, knowing that Texas boys had left after Noah, because the footage shows Noah leaving earlier and then Texas boys after. Never seen that footage though. Very interesting. But those Texas boys that left after Noah could have already been in the back of the truck resting, the bed. Texas boy or boys got into the vehicle unknown to Noah being in the back, gone down highway north, and then Noah stands up, disorientated, falls out the back, hits the ground, killed on the spot or pretty hurt, damaged, somewhat incapacitated. And depending where he falls on either side of the lane, could have then been struck or hit or catched or clipped by an oncoming vehicle unknown to the driver themselves. But did they stop? Likely not. Did they know though? Who knows? Someone like Chris Pyatt mentioned about how he thought he hit something, wasn't too sure if it was a hog or something else. Heard about the news of Noah, decided to call into police and own up just in case. Supposedly found innocent, but still was honest and took action, which was good. But did anyone else, if they felt like they hit something? Likely not, which is problematic to some extent. Whether you'd call it truly hit and run or not, I'm not too sure. If Noah was already dead and then you hit the body, is it a hit and run? No, because the person's already dead. But did you contribute to further injuries sustained to Noah's body? Yes. So when people always say one event or the event of Noah falling out of a vehicle doesn't justify all the injuries from the autopsy, but could it have justified some of the injuries and then finished off, caught up with another unfortunate event, as in being run over, clipped or hit by another vehicle shortly after, killing Noah, or just adding insult to the injury, literally? Is that a possibility? And if that's the case, maybe the person that contributed or finished off Noah, either way, could have been a stranger, a partygoer, or an outright stranger passing on down, but still contributed to the additional injuries to Noah. So a stranger can still be involved, maybe not responsible for the transportation aspect of Noah, but for the additional injuries on top of the previous ones. But I think it might have been mentioned somewhere that some or most of injuries all occurred at once or in one go. So I know that does need to be acknowledged to some extent. I can't remember if it was mentioned officially in the autopsy or if it was mentioned on the sideline by people in the community. Got to be careful with that, of course. But these are theories and ideas to try and work out what's really going on, of course, right? And the aspect of a stranger sounds spooky and creepy, but it does need to be acknowledged. And the locations where they could come from, originate from, pass on through, and move about is always on the table for discussion. All in all, hopefully you found the video somewhat interesting. If you would like to hit the hype button located down below, swiped across from the comments section below. If you're on mobile only, feel free to do so if you haven't already. 3 votes in a week and then it resets the next week. That'd be much appreciated. It helps with spreading the awareness, as well as leaving comments down below under the video, which creates new discussions, questions and answers and other forms of learning. This was quite a deep video considering how far things have gone and ideas being ticked off the list. As said, you can only go so far up until a point of where things may go quiet, but I think this was quite a hard-hitting, interesting outlook on other external possibilities besides the same old norm, because people may be very passionate and truly think about murder and the aspects of that and possible foul play in some ways. And whilst I gave a bit of a multi-dimensional hybrid cross possibility, you could still link it in with the idea of a stranger. But then it'd be interesting to see if people get what they want, the concept of murder staying on the table, but the one responsible, the name changing besides those named defendants. I can imagine that the general public would get petty and say, right, we've got what we wanted in terms of it being murder, and that's accepted or acknowledged by some of the voices out there, but we still believe it to be a party goer. It has to be a party goer. It has to be a friend. It can't be anybody else. It can't be any stranger whatsoever. Why is that? Oh, because that's what the wrongful death lawsuit says. So we're sticking by with that. But we'll see how that goes, won't we? But let's not forget John Jane Doe's unidentified mystery people. Could be a stranger, maybe not, who knows? Still links in as a possibility. And if any of the defendants were linked in with that John Jane Doe, as in knowing something, that John Jane Doe may be in connection with those said defendants or hosts at the party, which could link on to the possibility there was any death on site of the property, and then being moved on justifies the motive behind covering for one another and doing a favour for someone. So there's no blood on other people's hands, no blood on other people's land in that sense, to avoid questions or reduce that. I'd understand that aspect. But anyway, with that being said, hopefully you found the video somewhat interesting. Feel free to hit the like button, share the video for that awareness, and I'll see you next time with whatever that may be and case-wise. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night for now.